Moving on, collaboration. Collaboration. It's a much used word in the industry. And just to finish up this session, I'd like to introduce Norton Bertram-Smith, who's going to look at collaboration as a business ethos. Norton founded On Purpose Limited and has facilitated strategic change and leadership development programs for over 10 years, and to many people that are in this room today. Norton left the corporate world in 2003 as Managing Director of Aberdeen Airport, having originally joined Sir John Egan's executive development team in '95 to help prepare for the design, procurement and construction of Heathrow's Terminal 5. Please welcome Norton Bertram-Smith.
So just to say thank you, or in the tradition of Hoyamora, or Kalimera. I didn't see anybody from Greece here today, but that gives you a hint where that one comes from. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to try and challenge the norm in terms of this presentation. So what I've got on the slide here to start with is really to try and get the point across that collaboration is not something that is just an oil and gas issue. Yeah. I've been invited to present to a HR forum, bless me, in London to discuss how can HR help reorganize industries to be able to collaborate better. So just to make this point that this is not something that is just focused in our sector here, but something that's been required right across industry, right across I think there's something like 50 different industry HRs that have been invited to that session. So that's just to get to that point across. These are the three balls I'm going to throw at you over the next 20 minutes. If you just catch one, that'll be great. But to really embrace collaboration as a business ethos, which hopefully I'll get that point across, you really need to embrace all these three things. You know, how do you fit into the bigger picture? How do you relate with each other? And actually, what's your internal capability to be able to collaborate? You need all these three things to be able to adopt collaboration as a business ethos. Yeah. So I call these the pillars of collaboration as a business ethos. And to start, I'm going to throw this quote at you from Daniel Goleman. Anybody read Emotional Intelligence? Emotional Intelligence, yeah, a few folk. Oh, not that many, yeah. Key competence in collaboration is emotional intelligence. His new book, Focus, looks at these three different aspects of collaboration. And I love to quote this one because basically he's saying that if we just look after ourselves, yeah, and optimize our little pie, yeah, we not only create a smaller pie, but we sub-optimize the whole. Yeah, I was at a meeting yesterday where somebody quoted that during some tender process, the client had saved in equivalent money £1, but it cost the industry 10,000. Yeah. So this is my definition of what the Wood Report is after in terms of collaboration. How do we optimize, or as Roger said earlier, that whole point of what do you call it, a mature basin management? How do we optimize the whole here, guys? Yeah, by working together across this. But it requires a certain attitude, doesn't it? So I often talk about collaboration being horizontal, not just vertical. Yeah, a lot of the work that I'm involved in is looking at collaboration in this vertical context, yeah, of it's some sort of project procurement strategy when, it's all too complex and we need to, get everybody to buy into things, yeah. But there's a lot bigger drive to see collaboration across the industry and to be starting to see, as I think you're doing, Eric, with your platform, yeah, seeing that you've got a whole basin to manage here, not just your own little pie. And how do you make that pie a lot bigger by collaborating? Yeah. So that's my passionate piece. Yeah, is that we're looking at this in a much wider, bigger, what's it called? Common good, greater good perspective that we need to start thinking about, and that this quote gets that across, I hope, quite well. Yeah, that we're looking at sustainability and reducing waste rather than just maximizing profit to the nth degree. Yeah. But this is the good fortune that I had in terms of working with this guy, Sir John Egan, in the post-privatized BAA, in bringing his collaboration as a business ethos to the whole of BAA in terms of managing stakeholders. I think somebody was talking about managing stakeholders as well, looking at how you take a complete collaborative approach in dealing with all your stakeholders. And this is what he tried to do when he took over BAA from Jaguar, the savior of Jaguar. He had a great story that he used to often tell us about how, I think it was either Honda or Mazda had come to the Jaguar plant to see how they'd implemented Kaizen and just-in-time and total quality management and all those type of things. And they came into the manufacturing plant and were horrified. What? You haven't introduced anything that we've talked about. It was still mess, noisy, suppliers running in and out, shouting at each other, staff up in, being stressed. And they turned to Sir John and said, I thought you had introduced all our techniques that we had brought from Japan for you. And he said, yeah, we're introducing it in the corner over there, in some corner behind some curtains with, I think they were doing S-type or something like that. And sure, opened the curtains, and there was this pristine production line, smooth, clean, with ease. And the Japanese were horrified with Sir John and said, how can you do this? Do you realize what you're doing to your staff? 1 minute here they are in this buddy-buddy collaborative relationship with the suppliers, and once they walk on the other side of that curtain, they're an adversarial approach. Do you realize what you're doing to your key stakeholder, your staff, the stress you're putting them under in terms of trying to have two different mindsets? And that's what it's about, yeah? So our whole focus in BAA post-privatization was this point of his whole ethos was a non-adversarial way of doing business. And how do you apply that right across the whole business, not just in parts of it, yeah? But recognizing that your key stakeholder in all this is your staff. How do you de-stress them? Yeah? How do you allow them to give of their best? That was his ethos. He did quite well, yeah? He tripled pre-tax profits from something like 150 million to over 400 million a year, yeah? So that hopefully gives you an indicator, excuse me, of the success that this approach can give you, yeah? Okay, so what's happening here? Let's just step back. That was some 20 years ago. Look at something from a bit of a more macro context. We had chartered corporations, and they didn't work because they had a monopoly of power. Then along came Adam Smith, and I got quoted by an operator the other day. Adam Smith, that's why we're doing this, yeah? Free enterprise. But of course, we have this issue of social Darwinism, if you can describe that or understand it, which has led to the social backlash that we're seeing across the whole world at the moment, and moving to the stakeholder corporation, which is a sustainable enterprise. And sure, we've got some society problems that you're obviously addressing, MER and the reduction in the taxpayer's burden. But it's really this bottom-up innovation that's key now. How do you get that key stakeholder, your staff or your supply chain, to be providing that innovation, that creativity? And that requires this whole aspect of a change in mindset, yeah? That how do we think about solving this problem? Anybody a millennial in the organization? Do you know what I mean by a millennial? Somebody born after 1987. Anybody born after 1987? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's where your solutions are, guys, yeah? We aren't going to be able to solve this because we bring the thinking that created the problem in the first place, yeah? So those people that put your hands up, yeah, you're the guys that have got the answers. How do we promote that bottom-up innovation so that those millennials can feel free to contribute to the solutions? Your why question that you said earlier. Those are the people that have got the answers, yeah? Okay. So you might need some new courage to provide new innovation and new technology, but this, for me, is the biggest challenge, yeah? The leadership that's going to have to be put in place, the change in the mindset of going from that, I'll talk about it later, that threat-based thinking to a collaborative way of thinking is not going to just happen because you signed a collaboration charter or agreement, yeah? It really is going to require a different ethos, a different whole ethos in terms of collaboration to get into becoming a sustainable enterprise, to promote that bottom-up innovation, and to become the stakeholder corporation that we're all trying to get there. And I see it happening a lot. A lot of people are really struggling with trying to become a stakeholder organization, but get dragged back into that old way of thinking. Yeah. Okay, so that's the first ball here, focusing on your greater good. Yeah. Do you realize that you have a choice, I or we? Yeah. And how do we move from that just optimizing your own little patch to optimizing the whole? Yeah. I or we. But then it becomes a challenge, doesn't it? How do we get into the we? Yeah. So I love using this as a way of explaining that. We all probably seen this 100 times, yeah? The DuPont-Bradley cultural maturity model in getting safety rates down by helping others, caring for others. But actually, there's another way of looking at this, that to get these interdependent teams, you have to have a high psychological safety. We have to feel safe that we can contribute to get that bottom-up innovation, yeah? So this basically gives me my whole business case of saying, guys, we have to do some work here in moving your mindset from that threat-based to the collaborative-based mindset. Okay, right, my second ball, yeah? Another quote, this guy from Stephen Covey Jr. Last time I asked this question, not many people knew who Stephen Covey was. Stephen Covey, 7 Habits, yeah? Look at it, it's not very many people. It's the most read leadership book in the world. And it's the same sort of less people than I imagined. This is his son, yeah? And I love reading this one out. Okay, so high trust working environments foster the collaboration required for success in the new global economy. Collaboration as opportunity. Thank you very much, yeah? It's an opportunity, points to the bedrock of collaboration, trust, yeah? Without trust, collaboration is merely cooperation, yeah? Which fails to achieve the benefits, as you've pointed out, and possibilities available to true collaborators in the knowledge worker age, yeah? So it's acknowledging that collaboration is an opportunity here, but to leverage that opportunity, we have to have trust, yeah? Which, of course, just doesn't come very easily. We have to earn that trust, and this is how we earn it, yeah? The flow of relating, obviously you can see how society informs our own mind, but our own mind determines how society behaves. So that adversarial piece you talked about in terms of the UK sector, this is what's going on, yeah? It's mutually determined, yeah? And you can either take that threat, competitive approach, yeah, to life, that everything is, what's the expression, red in tooth and claw, and it's all about survival, yeah? Or you can take this, what's called affiliative, compassionate approach, yeah? So which approach do you think as a leader is going to develop more trust? The one on your left or the one on your right? It's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? Yeah? Okay. But this is what's required to be able to generate that psychological safety. Unless we have leaders that are sitting here in this zone, yeah, being able to demonstrate their care, yeah, and create that psychological safety, you're not going to get the innovation. You're not going to allow the millennials to contribute to solving those problems, our problems, yeah? So that's the psychological sort of look at things. I have a little bit more of a practical way of looking at it, which I call the dance of trust and collaboration, yeah? So which donkey do you think is the more trusting and collaborative? The one on your right or the one on your left? The one on your left, hands up. No one for the left. The one on the right? A few people, yeah? It's a bit of a trick question, of course. It's both, yeah? We need to have both, have to have that attitude, okay? And I like this sort of dance analogy, because what happened in Terminal 5 is that we were accused of not trusting our framework partners, and that we were dancing. We knew how to collaborate, and we were dancing at arm's length, yeah? But actually what collaboration requires is that there's a symbiotic relationship between followership and leadership. We have to learn to become followers, just as good followers as good leaders, to be able to dance the dance of trust and collaboration, to know when you're leading and when you're following, and to totally trust your partner, your supply chain, that they will fill that space for you when they need to fill it. Yeah. We need a compassion motivation. It helps organize your mind to go from I to we. Anybody done some compassion training? It's quite a big thing at the moment. Compassion training? Anybody done compassion mind training? No? Nobody? One? Oh, excellent. Well done. Excellent, okay. So this is what we need to go from I to we, is to develop that part of us which is collaborative and affiliative. So here comes our first question, yeah? So get ready, out with your Nokia iPhones, yeah? See how this works. So get ready. To what extent do you experience a high trust working environment? Yeah, that's an important word, high trust working environment, when working with other organizations within our DCOM sector. So we do have some. There are some places where it is over 60, more than 80. And how do we learn from those? Yeah? So that's what we need to capture and share. How do we do this? Yeah? But I suppose that was a bit of a foregone conclusion, wasn't it? Because I often get people saying to me on a one-to-one basis, there's just such lack of trust. But in big open forums, oh, we trust each other. Yeah? So I wanted to get this point really nailed, yeah? That there's a bit of work that we have to do to get a high-trusting work environment. Okay, my third ball. This is another bit of business that I use to demonstrate the need. Anybody seen this? Anybody an accountant in the organization? In the audience? Any accountants? Not a single accountant. Okay. This study by the Chartered Global Management Accountants came up with this thing that said, we need to join the dots. We need to break down the silos to enable the millennials to contribute, yeah? Called Joining the Dots. And most of your CFOs would have contributed to this because it's an international global survey. And basically they said that 65% of organizations who focus on developing a trusting and collaborative culture consistently outperform their industry peers, yeah? So what it's saying is it starts internally, yeah? Collaboration is an inside-out job. It's like charity, yeah? It starts at home. You've got to get your own house in order. You've got to get that inner focus right, yeah? And basically, this was the damning stats that basically said that we needed to improve internal levels of collaboration and trust. 70% of collaboration between the executive and teams and employees, yeah? That's my business case for basically saying, look at yourselves first, guys. You've got to make sure that you can do this internally. I think that's what Bill said. You're looking at yourself, aren't you? Yeah. And what are the characteristics? Yeah. And I use that word very carefully. Characteristics, not competencies that are required here. Yeah. Sure. Your leadership. Are you demonstrating what is it? Affiliative and compassionate caring. Yeah. Your culture and your behaviors. What are those underlying beliefs that you have to start thinking about moving from being that threat-based to a collaborative-based, yeah? So these things are all what I call character-orientated, not your competencies, yeah? It's a development of character that's required to have this whole business ethos of collaboration, to be able to go, yeah, and do the I and we piece, yeah? So you're consciously deciding, yes, I'm meeting my needs, but I'm also meeting the needs of the basin, yeah? So that you know that you're responding to the challenges that we have, yeah? Rather than just reacting in that old way of, this is how we always did it before, and we'll just put up the fight, and we'll do the whole threat-based approach. And mindfulness, yeah? The big revolution in mindfulness. This is what it's all about. Now, there must be more than one person that's done a mindfulness course. Mindfulness, anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's a bit better. 5, yeah, okay. This is why the mindfulness revolution has suddenly boomed, yeah? It's to allow people to understand are they responding or are we reacting? Because it's going to be difficult, guys. We're going to go across to become collaborative, isn't it? It's going to be really difficult. You're going to know that you're going to get pulled back to this threat-based approach. And we need to be aware of where we are. Yeah. Okay, last poll. Yeah. So, to what extent do you experience a high-trust working environment within your own workplace? Oh, we've got some good examples then. So this is a bit more even. Okay. So these are the guys we need to learn from. Yeah? And this is Roger's point, and I think it was also Bill's point about how do we become the center of excellence in collaboration. I was talking to a tier 1 supplier yesterday where he said he wants to become the exemplar in collaboration, to be able to export it to the rest of the industry. Yeah? Well, those are pretty good results, actually, 21, 22%. Okay, my final conclusion here, okay? There's 3 things that we need to focus on. Our outer focus, our other focus, and our inner focus, yeah? Our intention of the greater good. How do we build those trusting relationships? But we've got to get that platform underneath and be able to really come from a focus that we know we've got the capability, we've got the character to be able to do this and develop that character. And I call that collaborative intelligence, the mindset that we need to build. So, thank you, Roger. I got the red light. Thank you, everybody. Back over to you, Roger.